All statement by the crew are opinion. Listener discretion is advised. Adult content be wary. Now you yell.
There's babies on deck!
No babies on deck.
There's no babies on deck!
Welcome to Canon Misfire. I'm your Captain Sam.
And I'm Elle, the lookout.
Yes, Elle is back, and we are here to talk about Star Trek today.
Woo!
I feel it's so funny because no one else on the crew likes Star Trek. You're the only one I know who actually likes the original Star Trek series. We have one crew member who likes the Next Generation, but I've never sit there and actually watched all of Next Generation.
Same. That's so odd. Well, I don't know. I think it's so odd when I hear that people don't like it or just never got into it.
I think it's odd that we like it at the age that we are.
True.
Today we're going to talk about the comparisons and the differences between Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek, the new 2009 series and onwards. The movies, per se. The cinematic, big budget movies that came out later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about Spock and Uhura. And I'm going to be butchering her name the whole time. I apologize. I cannot pronounce it correctly. Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
So, we'll just get into it. Since this is a ship that only exists inside the movies. So we're going to just briefly talk about that, and then we'll get on to how it compares to the original series, and then we'll just, wrap it up like we always wrap it up. So the original movie is essentially like a pseudo high fantasy retelling of their lives before the Enterprise. So it's Kirk, it's Spock, it's Uhura, it's Scotty, it's Bones, it's all of the characters you love, but back when they were wee babies on their first mission into the galaxy. They're not really babies. They're like adults.
Yeah, we're not supposed to have any babies on deck, right?
No babies on the Enterprise. They just all graduated from the cadet level of the United Federation of Planets, and now they're gonna go be on the ships that they're supposed to do the majority of their work on. So that's the first movie, and some shit happens, and they all end up on the same ship and in control. Kirk ends up in control by accident. But we start out in an interesting spot because at this point, Spock and Uhura have already had history, and they're already presumed to be an item. That happened. And then in the second movie, it's a little hard to understand, but essentially Khan shows up, and he ends up having this brawl. What? Oh, it's Benedict Cumberbatch, yes. He ends up having this brawl with Kirk and Spock and all those other characters, and that all happens. But what's important to know is that Spock and Uhura have been having some difficulties in their relationship because of what's expected of Spock and his people at this point, because they're putting themselves together from almost being decimated in the first movie, and what Uhura wants Spock to be, which is just more reasonable and more just personable, but he is just very much not. And so stuff happens, and in the third movie, which is the last movie they've made up until this point, they're finally on this mission that we know in the series, the original TV series, to be true. They have been traveling around for a few years now. The whole process is getting old, and Spock and Uhura have they're very much okay with their relationship, but we don't see a lot of it beyond the fact of it being mentioned a few times and them sharing some looks. But it is very much still a thing inside that movie. So yeah, that's the wrap up.
Yeah.
I am laughing so much because I cannot believe this even exists, but we'll get to that. So, really quick, short comment. Does it work?
It's awkward, is what it is.
I don't think it works either. Okay, so here's why I feel it doesn't work. So in the original series, there's not officially official shipping like canon ships. There's like characters who have potential partners throughout the whole galaxy, like multiple women pop up for these characters, and like there's like mentions of how hot certain characters are and how they're like unbelievably attractive and all those other things. But all of that stuff is just like things that happen and then it's done within that episode because of the content of the episode and when it was made. There's just like there's no time for that type of thing. And then you hit the original movies they made for that. And some of these characters are shipped off officially with other characters, and some of these characters are just destined to not have a partner because of how they're written. If they have a partner, then almost ages and devalues them as the character they are. Then, these new movies get made, and out of nowhere, we have this relationship that has never once been touched upon in the series. Not once. There might have been some flirting, just some little banter, but there has never been an official, like, these characters are, like, together. I have not read any books. I have not played any of games, but I don't think this exists anywhere. And if it did, I don't understand why.
Outside of fan fiction.
Yeah, outside of fan fiction. Like, I don't see the possibilities. I'm getting heated. Basically, Uhura is a character who doesn't need a man. If we want to be real simple about it. She's a very capable woman. She's very good at her job. And she's very, like, headstrong and, like, we all know this. She's an amazing woman for space and history itself. Like, our personal history itself. Then we have Spock. Spock's whole, like, species, even though he's only half Vulcan, he's also half human. His whole species does not value relationships like this to the degree that it's being shown inside these new movies. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Ugh. Go ahead, I'm talking.
If a relationship goes against the lore foundation that you set for a character or their species, then yeah. I mean, you can have outliers. You can have characters that are not like their people or whatnot, but Spock was never really like that. I mean, like, he had, and not for Uhura. We'll just say that.
Yeah. It's the type, okay, so in the movies, it's already a thing. So we don't even get to see, like, how it becomes a thing. We're just supposed to accept that it's a thing. And that's already bad character writing to begin with. The reason that Spock wouldn't be in this type of relationship, Elle, you can do it because I've been talking too goddamn much.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense for Spock to be in a relationship with Uhura. First of all, because of how he is and his personality, he puts his job first. And it feels the same way with Uhura as well. But I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have a relationship either. I get that. But they have essentially just made the whole entire relationship as being said, not shown. And like you said, that's bad writing.
Yeah.
You need to show the audience that they have chemistry, which they have none. So it just makes it cringe, and they make no sense. And they're strictly there just so you can have two characters that are popular have a relationship.
And you can track me on this. But in the original series, every time Spock is, like, interested in a woman, it's always an outside force that forces him into that situation. May it be, like, some sort of crazy alien that's, like, manipulating his emotions or his mind or something like that. Or may it be, like, a planet that has, like, spores that makes everyone fucking crazy or something like that. Or even in the situation of his Pon Farr episode, where they're constantly like, oh, he might have an entrance into this nurse that constantly is around. It's more of his, like, raging alien hormones that is controlling his actions in that moment.
And when that happens, he literally pops right out of it with the fear of her being in danger.
Right. So, like, again, it's not his full mind that is ever having these emotions. It's always, like, someone or some third party, like, thing that's in the way. So, I don't get it. So, the writing is already, like, weird in itself for this type of ship. And the movies, I get it. There's, like, the movies are not accurate in any way, shape, or form. So obviously they get to play a different sort of game with these characters. But
the reason why Uhura and Spock don't work is because they don't have the proper chemistry for their relationship to write itself on screen. If you have to tell the audience that they love each other, then it's a bust. It's a flop. It's not working. And that's very much what I feel Uhura and Spock are. Now, you can argue that essentially what the movies are versus the original series is kind of like an alternate timeline.
Which is the way I see it.
Yeah, they kind of basically say that. So that kind of like throws the whole entire thing, well, they're not supposed to be together sort of argument out the door because it's an alternate timeline. That sort of thing doesn't necessarily fit in this timeline. They can be together, they want to be together. If they really wanted Spock and Uhura to make sense, to have the chemistry, then they needed to take the time to do that. But then it would take away from what Star Trek is. It's not about romantic relationships. It's about exploration and missions and all of that. It's not about that. And that's the reason why it's flopped. There are other medias where they pair two characters together that do work. It might be on by other people who happen to may see this show. It might not be a popular, or it might be, but a good example is Riverdale. And I know that you don't know this.
Okay.
But yes, there's two characters in the show that versus the comic books that were not together. Jughead Jones and Betty Cooper. They work in the TV show. They actually have chemistry. They make sense. But in the comics, they're not together. And they're not together because Jughead was originally supposed to be asexual, which a lot of people have issues with the pairing. You can understand why.
Gotcha.
However, even in the comic books, he said if he wanted to have a relationship with somebody, the person that he would have a relationship with would have been Betty. So they already have that chemistry, that dynamic, but because it goes against his sexuality in the comic books, that's why they're not together. But they decided to not make him asexual on the TV show, therefore they make sense. They're together. Because the medias are completely different. If you're going to make a show based on a comic book, a movie, it's 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be the same.
Gotcha.
Because it's different people working on it. It's a different person's adaptation of that show, of that story. To me, I feel like it flops in every aspect. Other than the fact that, yeah, I guess you could say they're both cute. They can look good out of context, but the minute that you see them working together and interacting together in the movie, it just doesn't work at all.
So here's a thought process then. What would make it work?
I think if they gave it the time.
Okay.
I don't know. Personally, I just feel like their characters kind of clash. So I don't think it would really work even if they gave it time, I guess. Because if you're going to me, I think that Spock's chemistry lies completely in a different character. And they're trying to force him having chemistry with a different character.
Okay. So,
for reasons.
Okay. So that makes sense. So here's my thought, is how to make this particular ship work, if this is what they really truly thought of. They need to make Spock have more personality, and unfortunately, that's not the character that we want for personality-wise. We don't want Spock to have personality like this, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Uhura,
exactly.
she just has to be less strong. If this relationship was something that they wanted, they would have to make each character pretty much the opposite of what they are. And I like Uhura the way she is because she is independent and she doesn't need certain things like this. And she's strong and independent and all this other crap on her own. She doesn't need a man and all this other crap. Now, here's the question that is going to really break the canon that we have set up in the show. I think there are other options that make more sense for each character. And I want to talk about how Uhura and Scotty would have made more sense and 100 times been more endearing than a Spock and Uhura ship ever could have been, or ever is, or even is now. Scotty is a character with personality. He is capable, but he's not sure of himself. And he's a character who could be independent, but is not normally given the chance to be. I feel like Scotty is the character that Uhura can level out. Their ship would be almost filling in spaces for each other. Uhura needs someone that she can relax with, that makes her laugh, that is fun. And Scotty needs a character who doesn't need him, but is okay with him being himself around them.
Yeah,
that's
basically exactly how I feel. I mean, that's why it worked in the original series.
In the original series, in the movies, they have scenes together and lines together where they are canonically seen as a couple. And I never would have thought about it from watching the series, but I did see it. And I do see why it works. And I like it 100% more than Spock. Because I think there needs to be a character who doesn't make Uhura feel like she's worthless. Because in the movies, there's constantly like talk about how he can't accept or get to the program or be on the same level as her. And who wants all that mess in their life? Like, he's messy. He's a character that requires a different type of energy. And Uhura needs someone who's on a different level, like, is more together. Spock is trying to figure his own shit out. She already got her shit together. That's the issue. That's the whole problem they have.
Yep.
And here we go. Who works better for Spock?
Well, I'm gonna just say it, okay? Obviously, everyone knows me and Kirk. I mean, that's how I feel.
I feel the same.
I don't think anyone gets Spock the way that Kirk does. In any timeline, the reason why Kirk and Spock make way more sense is because they're both kind of like, they're both messes. And they just kind of fit each other. And they fill in the pieces that are kind of missing with one another. There's a level of respect. And they rely on each other. I know that it's basically, people are just like, well, they're best friends. And you can have that sort of platonic relationship with a person and not be romantic. I believe that too. And I believe it with them as well. Like, when I say that they fit better together, I don't necessarily mean that as it has to be romantic. Because that's not necessarily what Star Trek is about, as I stated before. That doesn't mean that you can't incorporate it, but I feel like it should feel natural. And the natural chemistry that Kirk and Spock have on the TV show just makes more sense. But because, given the day and age, given the type of audience, again, sci-fi for some reason, or just anything that is aimed towards a certain type of demographic, is just too afraid to put two guys together. That's just how I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like it's too taboo for them to admit the fact that Kirk and Spock have the best chemistry
I mean, even in the current movies, I see more chemistry between these characters.
Yes.
Because, like...
I agree.
Yeah, because Spock doesn't need a romantic partner. He just needs someone to understand him. And Kirk is that person who understands him.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't need to be romantic. It can be platonic. They already have that down. Their platonic relationship is on point. And I liked Chris Pine as Kirk. I loved Zachary Quinto as Spock. I thought that they were really good in their roles. I thought that they were really good Spock and Kirk. And that's so hard for people to come in and take over the roles that were so beloved, like, you know, Kirk and Spock, with just the fact that it's so old and people already have, you know, those faces down.
I mean, even, as you said, even Simon Pegg and even Zoe Saldana, they're both, like, amazing, like, Uhura and Scotty's.
Oh, they really are. The cast was phenomenal. I felt like everyone was great.
The only thing that's messed up is the dynamics they put these characters through, and they just, they're, like, missing key elements. Yeah, they're just missing key elements in their character story. I hate it. Because, like, I normally am the type of person who is like, media is separate from its original media content. So, like, Harry Potter, that episode, I kept going on about how, like, the books are different than the movies, guys. They're going to be different. It's so hard for me to accept this, though. I feel like a hypocrite. I should know this, and yet I'm having a hard time with this ship. Like, it just feels like a very, like... just underhanded attempt. Like, if we want to be real serious, Spock should be asexual. Like,
I agree.
Beyond the Pon farr, he doesn't desire anyone in that sense. Like, that's just how it's supposed to be for his whole lore. I don't get it.
I feel like if they wanted to put Uhura with either Kirk or Spock, I feel like if they had to, it would have made more sense with Kirk.
Yeah.
Simply because
I think what they like about Kirk is the playboy aspect, where he has, like, multiple women in each movie and all this other stuff.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. Because they even kissed.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't. I think it was against their will. Or
yeah, it was against their will. An alien made them do it, essentially.
Yeah, an alien made them do it. It was their first on-screen kiss of a black woman and a white guy.
Mm-hmm.
It was very controversial. It was a very big deal. But I feel like, and this is just saying, you know, if they had to put it in, because obviously they did. They felt so impaled to do it that they had to do it. And a better option would have been Kirk, despite the whole Playboy thing. Because let me just tell you, even though that Kirk is a Playboy, he's a feminist. That was his biggest thing in the original series.
Ah, well.
He treats women. He treats women very well in the original series. That the Playboy thing felt very much like an act because it was only with them for short periods of time. It was never with anyone on his crew. And
it was just kissing because it's old TV.
Yes, exactly. And that's why his relationship with the other chick seems so weird.
Well, that was the show, guys. And you can now follow us on Google Play, Stitcher. You can follow us on Spotify. And we're still working on iTunes. It's taking a long time. But I don't know, maybe eventually we'll be on there. Hey, Elle, where can we follow you?
You can follow me on pretty much every handle, like Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm all underneath the name T-Skull.
Awesome. And you can, of course, follow us on Twitter to get updates on when we post new episodes. We're going to try to do like 2 episodes a week at some point in the week. It's like a nice little fun surprise because we can't get our shit together. And I hope you have a magical day.